Welcome to this explainer. Okay, be honest with me for a second. Have you ever stopped to wonder why you find certain things beautiful? Like why a perfectly symmetrical face just stops you in your tracks? Or why the sleek, sweeping lines of a sports car are universally admired? Well, today, we're decoding the actual aesthetic wiring of the human brain. We are exploring a super fascinating premise here. What if almost everything we find beautiful is actually just rooted in evolutionary survival? It's a classic saying, right? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. We really like to think that our tastes are entirely unique, shaped by our personal experiences, our memories, our culture. But as you'll see, this science tells a completely different story. We're going to challenge this whole idea of subjective taste. Instead, think of beauty as a neurological shortcut. It's literally a brain hack developed by our Pleistocene ancestors. What you experience right now as an aesthetic thrill, that is very often just your brain rewarding you for identifying something that a million years ago would have kept you alive or helped you reproduce. There's this saying in evolutionary psychology, beauty is skin deep, but ugly is to the bone. And when scientists talk about beauty, they're very often talking about geometry. Historically speaking, any physical deviations from evolutionary geometrical standards signaled poor health, developmental instability, or high genetic mutation. So your primitive brain flags these deviations as unattractive, as a built-in protective mechanism. Actually, it's more like a prehistoric disease avoidance system that we literally still carry around with us today. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our scientific roadmap. Part 1, the biology of beauty. Part 2, inside the male brain. Part 3, inside the female brain. And Part 4, evolution versus modernity. Section 1, the biology of beauty, signals of survival and reproduction. To really get beauty, we first have to understand sexual selection theory. Think of physical traits as giant biological billboards broadcasting your genetic fitness, your resistance to disease, and your reproductive potential. When we see someone we find incredibly attractive, our conscious mind is dreaming about romance, sure, but our subconscious mind, it is meticulously reading these honest biological signals. Take a 0.7 waist-to-hip ratio in women, for example. That's universally recognized by the male brain because it signals optimal estrogen levels and high fertility. On the flip side, for the female brain, broad shoulders and a V-shaped torso in a man broadcast high testosterone and physical strength, which was absolutely crucial for ancestral protection. And facial symmetry? Well, that appeals to everyone because it's a huge indicator of a life free from significant disease or genetic mutations. Section 2. Inside the male brain. Landscapes, tools, and motion. So, how exactly did the male brain evolve to perceive beauty in the environment? A lot of this stems from ancestral roles in hunting and geographical navigation. I want you to picture your absolute favorite park, or maybe a beautiful landscape painting you love. Chances are it features a wide-open grassy area, some scattered trees, and maybe a body of water in the distance, right? Well, that is the savanna hypothesis at work. Humans evolved on the savannas of East Africa, so we are biologically hardwired to prefer environments offering prospect, a clear view to spot threats or prey, alongside refuge, a safe, sheltered place to hide. When you look at a stunning landscape, your brain's hippocampal and terrenal region lights up, essentially telling you, hey, this is a really great place to survive. And this brilliantly illustrates the concept of processing fluency, which is, at its core, all about metabolic cost. Get this, the human brain consumes about 20% of your body's energy. That is a massive chunk, and a lot of that goes straight to the visual cortex. Symmetrical, regular geometries, like the repeating patterns in a leaf, classical architecture, or even a perfectly round light bulb, they require significantly less energy and oxygenated hemoglobin to process. Because they're just easier to compute, they give us this rewarding feeling of cognitive ease and security. Beauty, in this sense, is literally your brain enjoying a much-needed break from metabolic stress. Which brings us to the aesthetics of objects. The next time you find yourself admiring the sleek lines of a sports car, the intricate mechanics of a luxury watch, or even just a perfectly balanced chef's knife, realize what's happening. Your brain is giving you a high five for identifying highly functional tools. In our evolutionary past, mastering perfectly crafted tools and weapons meant the difference between life and death. Today, that ancient admiration translates into a deep aesthetic appreciation for machinery that signals environmental control, resource management, and high status. But hey, beauty isn't just static, right? It moves. Have you ever watched a flawless athletic performance, maybe a gymnast sticking an impossible landing, or a perfectly thrown football pass, and felt this sudden rush of pleasure? That's a phenomenon called motor resonance. As you observe their physical struggle and triumphs, mirror neurons in your premotor and parietal cortex fire exactly as if you were performing the action yourself. Your brain is literally simulating their physical mastery internally, allowing you to experience the aesthetic pleasure of their physical status and strength without breaking a sweat. Section 3. Inside the female brain, dominance, status, and genetic quality. Now, while there is a ton of overlap in how we all view beauty, female aesthetic evaluation heavily weighs cues of formidability and protection. This is an adaptation to the immense biological investment required for human reproduction. Traits like a strong jawline, a prominent brow ridge, and tall stature, they aren't just arbitrary aesthetic preferences. They are direct, honest indicators of physical formability. They signal high testosterone, which historically meant the ability to protect and acquire resources. Even more interestingly, these traits act as a massive immune system flex. Literally, only a man with highly robust genetics can handle the immunosuppressive effects of high testosterone while still developing those strong structural features. But wait, the female brain isn't just evaluating raw physical strength. Creativity, humor, and artistic ability are perceived as intensely beautiful markers of cognitive fitness and adaptability. Plus, deep evolutionary roots in gathering make the female brain highly attuned to subtle visual details, color harmony, and texture. This actually extends into what we call habitat aesthetics, a profound appreciation for secure, comfortable, and beautifully arranged interiors that fosters social connection and safety. Whether it's a guy's sharp wit or a wonderfully designed living room, these are incredibly versatile and necessary traits across long-term human mating contexts. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how these ancient drives manifest in our everyday lives. Throughout history, men competed aggressively to gain status and access to mates. Today, we still see this in rough childhood play, but we also see it heavily in sports fandom. Yep, following modern sports, especially the contact sports, is largely an evolved psychology for tracking collisional conflict. It's a safe, socially acceptable way for the brain to assess male status, track loyalty, and figure out exactly who would make the best allies in a fight for survival. Section 4. Evolution versus modernity. Hacking the biological code. Let's move to our final section and see how all this builds up. Because what happens when this ancient, million-year-old biology crashes headfirst into our hyperstimulated, modern digital world? Well, this is where culture steps in. Cultural operant conditioning is the idea that society cultivates and reinforces very specific beautification behaviors. While our underlying biological codes remain exactly the same, culture and fashion are continually trying to modify, manipulate, and exaggerate those deep-seated standards. Basically, culture takes our biological canvas and dictates how heavily we should paint on it. And that leads us to the creation of hyper-normal stimuli. We are essentially hacking the biological code on a daily basis now. Think about it. Cosmetics artificially amplify sexual dimorphism, making lips redder to simulate youth, highlighting cheekbones to simulate bone structure. Cosmetic surgery literally reshapes the human body to mimic peak fertility cues. Social media filters project an impossible, pixel-perfect facial symmetry that no human actually possesses. And now, artificial intelligence is generating aesthetics so perfectly tuned to our evolutionary preferences that our primitive brains are entirely deceived by the illusion of supreme genetic quality. It's wild to think about. Which leaves us with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Who is really in control of your tastes? When you're scrolling through your feed, when you choose a partner, when you buy a car, or even when you just pick a spot to sit in the park, is it your modern cultural sensibilities making that choice? Or are you just following the invisible, ancient instructions of your Pleistocene ancestors, carefully wired into your brain over millions of years? The next time you find something beautiful, take a second to ask yourself, what survival signal is my brain really seeing here? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the world around you.